I get questions on almost every video asking how I draw and what programs I use and how I animate, and I have questions on everything, and I just wanted to answer some questions while doing a speed paint. So for those of you who don't know, I draw with my finger most of the time. I'm not very experienced with just a tablet. I do have one. I have a Huion Canvas GT191. But I don't use it as much as I want to because I'm just not experienced and I want to practice it more before making art on it full time instead of my phone and finger. I use Autodesk Sketchbook. It's a free app on my phone and I use it all the time. I've been using it since I was in 6th grade, so 4 years now, almost 5. And I've just gotten like really used to it. Other people I've talked to said they've had like a lot of problems with it, or they just don't like it, or it's hard to navigate. But I personally think it's really easy, and I can show you how to use it in this video because not a lot of people know how and they get confused. And over the past 4 years, I've learned how to use it really well. It comes with a really large scroll bar of brushes, paint brushes, and pencil tools, and I usually default to just ink pens. I usually default to this brush a lot. It's just really nice, it's really smooth, you can mess around with the size, and there's not really much like pressure, if that's what it's called. There's not much of it, not on this brush at least. There is on this one, the other ink pen brush. I use that for like thicker lines. I mean, I don't know, I can always like change the lines to be smaller, but I always just use that for larger line art for some reason. So enough of me ranting about how much I like the program and its brushes. I wanted to show you guys how I do speed paint and draw. So it doesn't really matter what canvas size I use, you can just use any. I usually sketch out with either a pencil tool or the pen tool. Just do a really simple sketch. Sometimes it's not so simple if I'm like doing more complex stuff, but most of the time it's simple. I get questions all the time asking how I color in this app. So basically what I do is I copy the line art into another layer, so I have 2 layers of line art, and then I use a pen tool and I mark out the markings on the first line art layer, and then I color it in with the paint bucket tool, and then I copy paste it so there's no like white lines or pixels that are uncolored, and then you can merge the top line art layer onto the color one. For shading, I take a pen tool with a color that will match the background, and I mark out like the most darkest spots, and I mark them all out, I color them in, and I turn on the multiply layer and I turn it down just a little bit so it'll match. I take the smudge tool and I smudge out some of the markings so the shading looks more natural and more blended. And then I take an airbrush and I go over like the darker parts. For lighting, I use like the glow airbrush and the glow effect, and sometimes overlay. That's what I use for like glow, and that's how I do the eyes most of the time. For backgrounds, I just use paintbrush tools and I go over it a couple times. I make grass with the paintbrush, I make trees with the paintbrush, I mess around with the overlay and multiply layers, and just make lots of layers for backgrounds. And I think this is it. I'm not really the best at explaining this kind of stuff, but I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope this kind of explains how I draw on my phone a bit more, because a lot of people are wondering how I do that. And maybe one day I'll show how I animate and how I tween if I'm just like more comfortable with it. But I hope you all have a great day.